understanding of this scripture. And I'm going to confess that this is the first time, probably in 25 years, that I wrote a sermon on Saturday because I struggled so mightily with trying to figure out what I would say. But then I started to think about something. We all have this in common because we all do it. We all fly in airplanes, right? And what was the big news this week? It was the Southwest airline, which hits very close to home for me. Southwest Flight 1380, the engine failed. It blew out a cabin window, which then sucked out, at least halfway, the woman who was sitting next to that window, Jennifer Riordan. She was pulled back by an individual, but as we know, unfortunately, she died. I thought about this because a number of years ago, Jean and I had a similar experience flying from Chicago south. We were taking a getaway time down in the Mexico region. And as we were somewhere over Indianapolis, I think that's why I have feelings about Indianapolis. But we were somewhere over Indianapolis. The sun was shining, the sky was blue, the flight attendants were doing their thing in the aisles, and all of a sudden the plane dropped 10 to 20,000 feet. It hit clear air turbulence, and we were very thankful to survive. It is the one time in my life I thought my life was over. And in that time, I have to admit, I didn't think about anyone else but my wife and I. And if I'm really honest, probably even more about me. So I can't imagine how, I just can't imagine how, when all of this was going on and the chaos is taking place and the masks are dropping and people are probably screaming and praying, and also one gentleman jumped up, moved through that plane to try to rescue the woman who was stranded in that window. He put himself at risk for someone he didn't know, had no connection with. He sought to help her. I don't know that I could have or would have done the same. Now, I know he was a first responder by training, thank goodness, but still, I would submit to you that this was a very, very courageous act, one of true selflessness, which theologically, I would offer, defines love. Love was an expression, a lived action of God's love. No greater love hath anyone than to lay down their life for another. Most of the time, most of us move by a different definition. We talk a lot about love, we express love, we say we love, we want to be loved, but we move on a different level. Paul says that when he defines love. We say love on the three levels. There's eros, which is erotic, and familia, which is like brotherly or family or acquaintance, and then there is agape, which is the divine love, the sacrificial love, the peak love, which is an offering of love so complete that it's a giving of all we are and all we have and all we might ever be, not to those we know. This is the interesting part. Not to those we know, or to those we care about or are connected to, but everybody. We think we do this. We talk ourselves into believing we do this. We believe that we make sacrificial offerings of our love and reaching out or charitable giving in that fashion, when really what we offer, I say to you, is we offer a contingent love. My love is contingent on what you give back to me, what you do for me. It is transactional. We love, but with the expectations of getting something in return. It is a quid pro quo. If you're nice, I'll love you. If you don't cross me, I'll love you. If you always say and do what I expect, I'll love you. Look, talk, act the way I think you should, and I will love you. Isn't it a fact that's what we often do? Which is not the example that Christ models. Rather, Christ worked to love saint and sinner, Jew and Samaritan, Roman and Greek, men and women and children alike. It was carte blanche. He loved them when he understood his message, and he loved them when they didn't. He loved them when they showed compassion, and he loved them when they couldn't. He even loved them not just when they were faithful, but when they betrayed him. On the night of his arrest and his trial, we know the story that Jesus is before the high priest and so forth, and Peter is out in the courtyard, and some people recognize Peter, and they run up to him, and they say, I know you. You were with that man. You're one of them. And 3 times Peter denies him. Or maybe we would say betrays him. And then later in the Gospel of John, at the very end, the risen Christ encounters Peter again and 3 times asks him, do you love me? 3 times Peter responds, and Jesus forgives him, and they move ahead. It makes me wonder. It makes me wonder if Judas, who also betrayed Jesus, if he had trusted Jesus enough to stick around rather than hang himself out of remorse or whatever, if he wouldn't have received the same love. The love revealed in forgiveness. My faith thinks he would have. And the scripture assures us that this kind of love, this agape love, goes on and on. It goes on and on to you, to me, to all, regardless of our past, in spite of our present, despite the future times that we might fail, misbehave, and even betray him, asking nothing except that we seek to love those around us, as Jesus did. Only one commandment I give you. Only one. I think God gave up on trying to get us to live 10, so Jesus says, just try one. One commandment I give you, that you love one another as I have loved you. Not the kind of love that's based on how gratifying it is for me to say I love you. It's not about the giver as much as it is the receiver. How that person feels. It's about God's grace. That love that comes through grace to us again and again and again, and it returns to us when the other gets it. But we don't do that. What we do is we say, well, this person's in, this person I'm going to love, and this person, no, and this person, well, we do those kinds of things. If this person looks that way, or acts that way, or dresses that way, or is with the right person, then we're okay. But if not, and the real tricky part here is God's grace is available to all the time. I teach the confirmation kids. I was taught incorrectly, but I learned when I did my doctoral work on sacred space. Churches are designed to kind of not only tell the scriptures and relay them, but a message, a theology of what the congregation believes. And often when you go into churches, there are 3 steps up to the chancel. The nave, where the people sit and they move forward to where the holy things, so to speak, take place. And does anybody know what the 3 steps stand for? Everybody always says the Trinity. Faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is love. What the author of our scripture in the Epistle of John, I think, was attempting to remind those early Christians of was that their common need to be loved and to love had to supersede all the things that they said separated. The early church was starting to get some legs, but then people began to argue, and they didn't argue about doctrine or worship styles. They argued about who was in and who was out. They didn't argue about Bible texts and interpreting them because there was no Bible at that time as we would understand it. And they were told to just learn how to get along. Just get along. Not just for your own well-being, but get along because you are called to be a witness to the world of a better place, a better way to live, a fulfilling way. You know, people come into the church or see the church doing the same stuff that's out there. You know, what happens is we got all this baggage out there and we drag it in here. Which doesn't mean we don't speak to issues out there, but we drag all the hostilities and the division and the separation, and we drag it. It's got no business here. The early church had many, many components, ethnically, racially, economically, religiously. People brought the world's divisions and disorder into the church, and we are reminded that the church is not just an institution or a building or a recreational place or a health club. The church is Christ's ongoing body and presence in the world. You are Christ to the world. The church is not called to be perfect, just different. The church is not called to be without fault or blemish, but without judgment, meanness, or exclusivity. I was told this past week of a family who had an individual who was really antagonistic, I would say racist, toward African American people. Never had anything good to say about them, never, it was always bad, bad, bad. So I don't know if it was his children or some relatives, they decided on his birthday to give him a special gift. You know those DNA tests they take? You see where this is going? When they showed him the results of the test, they had made sure that it said that he had African American in his background. Suddenly his tune changed, right? It's not the way love should have to work, is it? Louisa Hay once wrote, "If I want to be loved as I am, I have to be willing to love others as they are." In Proverbs 11:27, I love this. Anyone can find dirt in someone, be the one that finds gold. And here in the church, we all need it. We should all be about it. We should all discover the mother lode. One Sunday following worship, finished worship, a Sunday just like this, I was here and the service ended and someone came up to me and said, there's a gentleman waiting right outside that door, wants to speak with you. Well, my mind kicks into gear as to what's going on as I'm juggling all the balls that we do at the end of worship. And I thought, well, if it was a visitor or member, they'd probably come up to me personally. It's probably someone who wants a handout. So, you prepare yourself for what's going to happen and what the line will be that is going to be given to you. And as I exited, indeed, there was a gentleman I did not know, did not recognize, standing out there, and his appearance would make one surmise that he was homeless. And he said, "Are you the minister?" And I responded, "Yes, what can I do with you?" And I'm sure I said it in a tone that conveyed, "Don't mess with me." All the while thinking, what do you want? Well, he said to me, you're doing important things here. And I'm going, my mind spinning and going, I know this routine, I've heard this line. He says, I want to give you something. Okay. And he reached in his pocket and pulled out two $20 bills. And he placed them in my hand. And I said, why are you doing this? Don't you need this? You should keep this. And he said, no, God's been good to me. You do good things here. You try to love people. And now I'm thinking, oh man, what a heel am I, right? Or, he's got me where he wants me. But he simply said thanks, turned away, and walked out. And I haven't seen him again. How humbling is that? How amazing is that? How Christ-like is that? What a lesson in sacrificial loving was that. He showed love in a way that I should have. He showed love in a way that I should have, but didn't. Instead, I was a victim of that kind of transactional love we often fool ourselves with, and I spoke of earlier. And he witnessed to me that God's love can come from anybody to anybody, and God's grace is free. No strings attached. So why do we always try to put some there? Long ago, I'm showing my age here, but long before Burt Bacharach composed the song or Jackie Shannon sang about it, Christ invited us to be about it. I heard a chuckle. Does somebody know the song? What the world? I got somebody! Yeah, you just come down here, you win a prize. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. That's the only thing that there's just to love. That's as far as I know it. And it will be with you through the rest of the day. But Mother Teresa kind of summed up what, in a very general way, what I'm trying to say when she wrote these words to a poem. She said, people are often unreasonable, illogical, and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you are kind, people may accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. If you are successful, you will win some false friends and some true enemies. Succeed anyway. If you are honest and frank, people may cheat you. Be honest and frank anyway. When you spend years building, someone could destroy it overnight. Build anyway. If you find serenity and happiness, others may be jealous. Be happy anyway. The good you do today, people will often forget tomorrow. Do good anyway. Give the world the best you have, and it may never be enough. Give the world the best you've gotten anyway. Because, you see, in the final analysis, it is between you and God. It was never between you and them anyway.